Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and today we're going to be looking at patch 11.1 PTR Warlock damage testing in single target for Destro, Demo, and Aff. Destro playing both the Rain of Fire build slash Shadowburn build, single target, Rain of Fire being a little better currently, but also looking at Affliction and how, I guess, subpar it is, you can say, and surprisingly how decent Demonology is in a single target. Now, just getting right into this here, when it comes to Destro, there are two different builds you can play. Technically, there's a handful, but technically, you're looking at playing Hellcaller on most of the cleave fights that are in Liberation of Undermine, fights like Vexy, Cauldron, Rick Reverb, Styx, One Arm Bandit, Mugsy. They're all spread cleave based fights. Ads do stack from time to time where you can get like some Demonology implosion value, cleave, whatever, but there's a lot of like prio spread cleave on the fight where you want that havoc window to, cast Shadowburns and bolts when targets are 20 yards and plus apart. So we're going to look at Hellcaller single target testing here. Diabolus does look to be a little better in pure patchwork, but there's literally one fight this tier that is that, and that is Rocketmonger Lock and Stock. And whatever's best in single target has mobility, go play it there. Now, there are two builds of Destro we're looking at here today. The first is the Rain of Fire single target build. It looks like this. It's been talked about a lot over the past couple weeks, some sims on it and stuff. We're going to show it more today in combat, and that is this build right here. Now, this build does play CDF, Demon Fire Infusion, and things. I'm going to say this is bugged. It is not 4% proc chance. It's actually around 25, or it's been like 30 for me whenever Wither does damage. Obviously, it's bugged and occurring way too often. It'll likely be fixed soon, next week maybe. They need to make it, they need to fix the bug and then probably raise the proc chance for both Wither and Immolate, because 4% is way too low. But 30 is a little bit too high. This build's playing it though regardless. You're playing Inferno for 2-shot Rain of Fires, and the gist of this build is that you want to cast, you're using Rain of Fire, which is instant cast at 2 shards, same as Chaos Bolt, to dump shards, basically proc and build buff-based effects, and dump your shards faster to cast more Incinerates, to cast more spells that are, filler in a sense, and build shards faster. It's like a cycle of synergy. Casting Rain of Fire more often gives you more PO stacks more often, more frequently, cycles rituals faster. You can cast Incinerates more often, which hit pretty hard as well, about as hard as Chaos Bolt due to all its buffs, and just so on and so forth. Now, the other build here is going to be a Hellcaller single target build. In Sims, once again, it is playing Demon Fire Infusion. I am not playing this. I am playing this. There's basically every fight that's right here is a cleave fight. Shadowburn is good for mobility, good for Havoc cleave, all that, so on and so forth. I'm going to play this here and show you guys how it looks, and, go from there and look at how it all is damage-wise. So we're going to start here, this Hellcaller single target build. Once again, this raid here, if you're playing Havoc, you'll end up pulling a point and putting it up here in Havoc, obviously, out of this being pure single target. I'm not going to play Fiendish Cruelty here. I'm going to pull this and put it in Havoc only because this dummy is in Execute, and I don't want Fiendish procking over and over here to skew the actual results. Now, it's fine. Just factor in, hey, whenever the boss is low, it'll be procking in actuality. Havoc's not going to be cast here. Just keep in mind, I'm not playing it because, it's basically dead. So we're going to do about 2.5-ish minute cycles through 2 Infernals, give or take. All I have is Weapon Oil, Flask, and a Rune on. We're going to do this for every spec. Now, getting right into it, reset this first here. Playing my Imp, nothing crazy. We're going to precast. Let me go over here so I can't hear the world melting with these mages over here. I love mage. Perfect. Precast a Soulfire into an Infernal. Put that down. Trinket. Malevolence. I'm not going to be potting any of these. I don't want to skew it too much if I forget to pot, whatever. This here is a Jackpot Weak Aura. It's not going to be like that whenever, I actually push the Weak Aura live and all that. I just put it there as a clear-cut indicator of, hey, Jackpot is proccing. For those that don't know, Jackpot is our tier bonus. Whenever you cast your Infernal, we're capping here, don't worry about it. Whenever you cast your Infernal, or randomly right there, it can proc and launch 6 to 7 Demon Fire bolts at your target, giving you a bit of extra damage there. It always procs whenever you cast your Infernal. So it's tied to a 2-minute cooldown, being Infernal, and it looks to be outside of that around like 1 RPPM, which is not horrendous for a tier bonus like that, but obviously it can proc more often. Now, Demonology is also Jackpot based. Affliction also Jackpot based. But only Destruction and Affliction have these minor buffs that you get whenever you actually cast your Infernal and or proc your Jackpot. Destro gets a basically like a random master, well, not random, but it is a mastery effect that increases your mastery whenever it procs, right? Sort of similar how your Capstone does, which is I think 79% is current point in tuning. Now, as far as like damage is concerned here, we have Malevolence every minute in between your Infernal which gives you a bit of an extra boost of damage. It increases like your wither stacks and all that. And a lot of fights this raid tier have ads spawning around a 1 minute window. One Arm Bandit, an exceptionally strong Destro Hellcaller fight. The ads and heroic spawn literally every minute apart. Now, when it comes to Mythic, they spawn a little faster, but still very close to being about a minute apart. A lot of ad fights in general just have really good timers for Malevolence and Hellcaller and Wither to be valuable in those fights. And even if you don't get like the perfect window for Malevolence, Wither itself is very, very strong this raid tier. Spread Cleave, Wither itself as a dot hits very hard. I mean, Destro is basically the best dot spec for Warlock now, which is sad to say, but it's true. So we're at 2 minutes again here. We got a jackpot. We're going to cast an Infernal there and reproc the jackpot. So we got 2 rolling here in a sense. Going to refresh our Wither there. Start dumping some bolts. About 1.5 is what I've seen roughly for Destro here, give or take, depending on RNG of procs and things. 1.5, 1.6. I think our highest test yesterday was 1.65. I think my Wither might have fallen once here with no stacks. Not the end of the world. But yeah, around the 240 mark, I've seen around 1.55 to 1.6, give or take. And once again, it's very important to drive home that when it comes to the raid, there's not much pure patchwork stuff. You're looking at a lot of like Hellcaller Cleave-based fights, which you can't really replicate here. But with Wither being very strong in 2+ target settings, Havoc having an increased duration in patch 11.1 and all that, this looks to be Hellcaller. An exceptionally strong damage profile heading into Liberation of Undermine, patch 11.1 in general. The stopping damage here, I've seen about 1.5, give or take. This might be a little lower than usual, but regardless, Chaos Bolt, a large portion of our damage. Incinerate being about 12%. Average crit being, I guess, 1.1 million, give or take. Wither at 11, Blackened Soul, 10.8, Shadowburn about 10.4, Conflict Ray tier, Soulfire, and CDF. This is our tier bonus. And I've seen this a decent bit higher. I've seen it around like 5.6 to 6%. Looking at the actual procs we got for Jackpot here, we ended up getting 4 procs and 3 reapplications. Now, reapplications are fine. They don't really matter a whole lot. It'll still launch the same amount of bolts, but I mean, getting 4 over the course of a 2.5 minute window, not the best when you have 2 tied to your actual Infernal. Now, RNG is RNG. I think we had 3 within the first minute or so here, and then we went basically a minute and a half with 1 being tied to my Infernal. So I've seen a little higher for actual average testing of Hellcaller in single target, around 1.5 to 1.55, maybe even 1.6, give or take, yesterday. But regardless, that damage will be even better in the raid when you have a better profile suiting Hellcaller. Now, shifting gears here to the Rain of Fire single target build, some things changed. I'm going to play Demon Fire Infusion here to show you guys how it is currently taking in the damage breakdown overall in these tests. You could factor in like more Shadowburn points here if you wanted in the long run. The build does play Shadowburn baseline. You're not playing Improved Chaos Bolt, no Burn to Ashes, something else like this. But you are playing Shadowburn to apply Eradication. On top of that, I mean, for the most part, casting on cooldown is usually what I do, pretty much. You're not playing things like Blistering or Fiendish, but it's still there. Whenever your ritual procs, you want to cast a Chaos Bolt, not a Rain of Fire here, from what I understand. But regardless, the build is very, very close to what you see for, like, just, once again, comparatively to Hellcaller-based Destro and single target. And to just once again hit on the damage profile, if there are 2 targets in the raid, for example, let's say one is here and one is here, and you're playing Destro, right? Now, Rain of Fire might be a little better in single target by about 7 to 8k in current sims that I've seen, but when you can't really get relevant cleave, like on a target being here, and a target being right here, because you're playing Rain of Fire, comparatively to like Shadowburn and or Chaos Bolt with Havoc, right? You're typically going to forego playing that Rain of Fire single target build. It's a little better in single target, but like I said, the only actual fight that is patchwork this tier is Sprocketmonger. And this fight also is very, very heavy movement-wise, with debuff swapping, the boss running across the room, popping traps. So the Rain of Fire build is best in single target in sims currently for Hellcaller, but the damage profile that it brings does not look very good this raid tier. Now, I think it's more of a like design / tuning issue that Rain of Fire is better in single target, but I digress. That could be a thing they change in tuning this week. Maybe just like buff Chaos Bolt a bit. I think Destro could use some buffs in single target. It looks very strong in M+ and AoE, but you know, we'll see where that goes. So opening up here, the build is opener-wise pretty similar to what you've seen with the more Chaos Bolt Shadowburn based builds here. We're going to go in, cast a Soulfire on this target here, pop my Infernal, Shadowburn, pop a Malevolence, Trinket, whatever, Rain of Fire, Conflict Rate, Shadowburn, Soulfire, Rain of Fire. Now the cool thing about this build as well is that my cursor is way over here, but I'm playing the cast Rain of Fire at target talent. So like I mean, everyone's pretty much played with an at cursor macro for Rain of Fire for a long time, but I'm being lazy. I'm playing with one hand right now. My other hand's totally on my keyboard, I promise. But you know, super easy. You set it and forget it. I'm casting Shadowburns for the most part on cooldown to maintain eradication here. It might fall for a second or two, space them out a little better. It's fine, roughly give or take. But if you look at the actual damage right now, I mean, this is putting out about what the Shadowburn, the more Shadowburn Chaos Bolt base build did a couple minutes ago. And it's also pretty consistent. I mean, all you're doing is casting conflict rates and Shadowburns and Rain of Fires and maintaining your Wither, right? Jackpot procs, like you see here, they are RNG. At times you get more, at times you get less. I will cast a Chaos Bolt for this ritual. I might have missed one already. It's what it is. I'm going to pop my Malevolence here to flare up my Wither. And once again, just continue casting Rain of Fire. And the big thing with this build, like we said, having Rain of Fire cost 2 shards, Jackpot proc again, having it cost 2 shards here means you're essentially dumping your shards faster, right? It's an instant cast spell. Rain of Fire comparatively to Chaos Bolt taking 2 to 3 seconds, depending on backdraft and things, which means by casting shards through Rain of Fire, you're essentially stacking your shard spending buff abilities, whatever, Power Overwhelming or Ritual of Ruin or whatever faster. You're getting more value out of them more often. On top of the fact that things like Incinerate and other non-Chaos Bolt spells do hit relatively hard, and Chaos Bolt does not hit very hard. All that is where it builds upon itself, compounds upon itself. It ends up being, well, you're essentially, theoretically, sim-wise, best choice when it comes to, once again, single target. We're going into an Infernal here, so I'm going to pool shards a little bit here. I'll cast 1 Shadowburn, going to Infernal, pop my Trinket, pop Malevolence, and casting a Fear, apparently. Right about that, I fat fingered it, pop Malevolence now. And once again, just keep spamming Rain of Fire, catch Wither before it falls. And yeah, that's that. Now, the one thing with Demon Fire Infusion, the talent that procs like Channel Demon Fire bolts, is you do still indeed get the actual duration extension on Wither when they hit, but it is RNG. Now, like I said, the actual proc chance of the talent is bugged currently for Hellcaller, giving you a lot more procs than it should be, and we'll look at that in a minute here. But whenever that is fixed, and even just in general, whether you're playing Rain of Fire build in single target for whatever reason, or you're playing, you know, the actual Chaos Bolt Shadowburn build, you will likely see a large shift toward Shadowburn due to the raid, mobility, cleave, havoc, cleave, and all that kind of stuff. So we'll stop right about here. It's fine. Looking at like 1.55, which this is about what I've seen for this build in testing. I've actually seen higher numbers from me personally playing the Chaos Bolt Shadowburn build a bit more comparatively to this build here. But keep in mind that iteration we did a minute ago wasn't playing Fiendish Cruelty for the Shadowburn execute clause because the target was low. Now, damage breakdown wise here, you've got Incinerate up here, Channel Demon Fire. Now, there are 2 iterations here. The one that is hitting harder, which is this one right here, roughly, is going to be your tier bonus. And you can see 8.5% higher than the last test we had with Shadowburn and, you know, Chaos Bolt build. But that's also because there's, you know, different damage profile there. Doing about 8.5% of my damage. You can tell this is the tier bonus because the tier bonus grants you a increase, the actual rift at 200%, hitting twice as hard right here. Max being 866, this here being 507. This right here is Demon Fire Infusion, the passive talent right here procking. Launching bolts with RDF and Demon Fire Mastery, so on and so forth. Now, if you look at the actual proc rate here, if you look at the actual proc rate or amount here, Wither ticked 118 times. The actual CDF hit 44 times. So it's procking a lot more than what it should be. This is about, I mean, honestly, about a 40+% proc chance, not 4%. So obviously, a little buggy / overtuned. But putting that aside, Rain of Fire about 8.9%. In Sims, it's about 9%, depending on RNG and procs and things, the Soulfire, so on and so forth. Could be a bit higher, a bit lower. Shadowburn being 8.3, Conflict Rate being 7.3, Chaos Bolt 6.8. These are more overveined here. And the bolts that I cast through Ritual are sitting right here. I cast 4. Maybe should have been 5, but, you know, a bit lower. Looking at auras here for Jackpot, we actually had 6 procs and 2 reapplications comparatively to the previous test where we had 4 and 3 reapplications. So this test definitely had more Jackpot RNG, higher uptime, higher RNG, which can indeed skew things. You can see that in the comparison looking at the Chaos Bolt Shadowburn build a minute ago to this. Power Overwhelming also sitting at a 65% uptime with 14 reapplications. A lot of that due to Rain of Fire casting without Bolt having a longer cast time, Rain of Fire being instant, and this is, you know, partially what makes this build as strong as it is, maintaining higher buffs, maintaining a higher uptime on things like Power Overwhelming, proccing rituals more often, not taking 2 seconds times 4 or 5 to cast Chaos Bolt. You're just casting Rain of Fire 5 times with the instant cast spell. So both builds are close, but once again, I want to, you know, drive home that the actual like Rain of Fire profile, when you have a target sitting here, you know, here for example, and here for example, right? If I can ping twice here, I can't ping here and here basically. There you go. In a raid setting, and you're playing a Rain of Fire build, I'm not going to full on be pumping this one target with Rain of Fires right here and just saying, oh, I'm going to ignore this target over here and just say, hey, whatever. Yeah, it's there. I'll have it for Immolate or Incinerate. No, you're going to play a Shadowburn Chaos Bolt based build. So Rain of Fire might be a little higher in single target sims, but sims are one thing, actuality is another. Sims are a great tool, but it's important to apply logic to the scenarios where things are simming and say, hey, it might be a little higher, but it's not really practical. And I think that's where the Rain of Fire build is. It's a little higher, but it's not really practical. Is it a problem just being around, like, built like that in general? Yes. All right, now shifting gears to Affliction here, I will say that Soul Harvester is simming a bit better than Hellcaller when it comes to pure single target, similar to Retail right now, but Hellcaller, once again, is the much better profile of this raid tier. Affliction is honestly pretty solid when it comes to, like, spread cleave, whether it's in M+ isn't even looking like that terrible. You're playing Hellcaller with spread cleave, and packs live for a while. Quality of life, non-existent there. When it comes to raiding and things on fights like Cauldron of Carnage, or maybe more like Cauldron or One Armed Bandit, if you have like spread cleave where you can apply withers and buff wither with Malevolence, Rapture, flare things up, so on and so forth, and things live for a while, AF is honestly not bad in those settings. You might play AF, more so playing Hellcaller, this raid tier on a handful of fights. Affliction's single target, though, struggles a lot. Now, Soul Harvester is a little better than Hellcaller in single target, not by a large margin, but I want to show Hellcaller single target here because, I mean, I think it's worth looking at because this raid tier, you're playing a lot of Hellcaller. If AF is the best in single target and Soul Harvester is better, you'll play it on the one fight where you're playing ST. That's Sprocketmonger, but I don't think you're going to do that. Now, I will say Hellcaller in single target does play Death's Embrace here. This thing is dead. I'm not going to play it and see damage here all the time. We're going to play Dark Harvest too. Not a huge loss regardless. We're also playing Siphon Life over AC. Siphon is a little better than AC for Hellcaller because of it buffing Wither. If you hate Siphon Life, it's not a dot anymore. It's just passive. You have to refresh your Corruption. If you don't want to, just play AC. It's whatever. I also, funny enough, I am re-recording this part of the video because I just tested it once and I had a 2.5 minute test where Jackpot literally procced, I kid you not, 10 times. RNG is RNG. I have never seen Jackpot proc more than like 5 times over the course of a test, whether it's been Destro or AF. I hope you like the casino because this tier, with your tier bonus being tied behind RNG and procs, brother, it looks to be like we're all heading there. So, big difference between Hellcaller and Soul Harvester. You're not getting those 3 shards whenever you cast your Soul Rot like you are with Soul Harvester. To a similar extent, there's a Jackpot again proccing. You're not getting those 3, shards being empowered whenever you cast your Soul Rot. You're just getting, Malevolence on a minute cooldown, which buffs your Wither. Jackpot again. I don't know what's happening. Why am I getting a million Jackpots back to back? I should go to the casino this weekend because apparently I can high roll everything. But one thing to keep in mind is that Unstable Affliction, without like our tier bonus proccing, tier bonus increases UA damage, is, I don't know, honestly, usually about 8 to 8.5% at times, maybe a little higher of our overall damage breakdown. It, in this form, is, a little higher. If it procs back to back to back. But honestly, we'll look at it at the end here. Unstable Affliction, when it procs, from your Dark Lair cast during your damage windows every 2 minutes or whatever, or as RNG of Jackpot procs, is not incredibly impressive. We had one less shard that we needed there for that window. It is what it is, whatever. Had a TC proc, it's fine. Once again, not getting the shard gen coming in there from Soul Rot cast because we're not playing Soul Harvester. Refreshing our Wither right here. About 27 seconds off of our Dark Lair here, give or take. Our damage is 1.38 million. Jackpot proc there. Cool thing about Jackpot is, like, watch it proc and watch my damage fall. Pretty sick tier bonus. It procs and I lose damage. Either way, I'm going to keep going on here. We're about 15 off of our Dark Lair due to our Soul Rot timer, just maintaining dots here. Catch our Agony before it falls here, roughly. One more Bolt Cast is fine. Do this, catch our Wither, refresh our UA, then we can just begin Soul Rot, into a Singularity, into a Dark Lair, pop Trinket. I need to actually Rapture there because Malevolence is on the GTD for some reason, so I'll lose that TC proc, and dumping the rest of our shards right here. Haunt to catch our Shadow's Embrace. I forgot when I'm playing Improve Haunt, that's okay. Caught it there somehow either way. Bolting a bunch here, and then, you know, praying for TC procs. Got two. Bang. Bang. Another shard. Bang. Catch our Agony. Didn't really have a crazy amount of jackpot procs there past the opener. We're sitting at 1.45 million. Destro's typically been sitting around like 1.5. I've seen 1.55 on average for the most when it comes to like the Shadowburn Chaos Bolt build. Rain of Fire has been similar, depending on jackpot RNG. It's sort of hard to show like where damage is at in all these tests because of RNG of things, but I mean, we're sub 1.4 million at this point. We're behind on average what I've seen for Destro by over 200k. When it comes to the breakdown, Unstable Affliction being about 12.6. Honestly, it's a little higher than what I've seen. I've seen about usually like 11 to 11.5%, give or take. But once again, RNG is RNG. When it comes to jackpot procs, we had 4 and 1 reapplication there. So UA being about 12.8%, Agony 13, Wither, Malefic Rapture, so on and so forth here. Hellcaller is good in spread cleave. In single target, it's not that far behind Soul Harvester, but Affliction in general needs some buffs in ST. It's good in spread cleave. It's good we can get Wither value, but in single target, it's a bit lacking. They should maybe add a clause to this where it does like maybe 100% increased damage instead of 50 for UA if it's in single target. If it's in like 2 targets, maybe it's 75, then 3 and 4 is 50. Something along those lines. You can come in and just buff UA in general. It probably needs to be buffed because, I mean, the fact that like Agony is beating out Unstable Affliction, Wither's on top for sure. But the fact that Agony is beating out Unstable Affliction, Agony is a dot that I can spread to any target, refresh, you know, with ease, but UA is my limit 1 dot with a cast time. It's basically your big dot for Affliction, and it's behind Agony. With a tier bonus affecting it, there's some issues there. Alrighty, now we're going to look at Demonology here. I'm going to say off the bat that I keep getting flagged for PvP combat here. I think it's because there's some splash spell cleaving on these dummies way down here. These are PvP dummies. I can't change it. I've tried to record this segment 20 times. I kid you not. Now, if I am flagged, you'll see this go from 265 from our tier bonus to 130. I'll try and keep an eye on it here. It is what it is. I can't change it. Welcome to PTR. Now, besides that, we are playing Flame Touched over Pact of the Aerodrome here. This is bugged. It has basically a non-existent proc chance on dummies, but it works in PvP and raiding and all that dungeons just fine. If Flame Touched is better in Sims, not sure, but if it is, great, we're playing the right build. If it's not, well, you can add a bit more damage on top of this and play Pact, right? But can't really tell here. Now, our tier bonus, the 2-piece procs a Greater Dreadtalker. Whenever you Tyrant, you can proc outside of that too. The 4-piece causes the big dog and your smaller dogs, these, to Dreadbite whenever you cast Hand Gul'dan, more damage based on the number of shards spent. So we will go from there. We're going to Siphon here and open up. I'll keep an eye once again on the PvP flagging. I can't really do much else about it. It just sort of is what it is. I don't know why it shows me as out of range here. I'm not. Cool. Let's go. So we're going to cast a Grimoire here. Going to cast Purple Dog here. Might lose some cores here because we had to wait with that combat bug there. We're just going to try and make this work. I'm going to hand, bolt, hand again. A bit less imps than what I wanted here, but hey, you know, bugs are bugs. So that audio cue, like that coin noise in the background or whatever, that is actually your Greater Dreadtalker spawning. Now, if you notice, we had 1 spawn in our opener there, which is really nice. We also had 1 spawn from casting our Demonic Tyrant. Now, the Greater Dreadtalker does not work with Tyrant extensions. He doesn't get it. To a similar extent, he does not get the actual Tyrant damage amp from the actual ability itself right here. Now, what he does get is a damage amp from a talent called Abyssal Dominion. Abyssal Dominion is a hero talent. It's basically another Tyrant damage amp. It is in the Diabolus tree. It is sitting right here. He does indeed work with this. So keep that in mind. There is some RNG, a proc again right there. You can hear it going off. If you do proc one like in your Tyrant ramp before he spawns or whatever, there's a bit of extra value there, but he does not get like extensions or anything like that. So you're not like Omega fishing for procs heading into your Tyrant. If it happens, great, awesome. If not, it is what it is. Second Tyrant coming up here. We're going to just set this up. Dreadtalkers into Purple Dog. Sequencing is sort of whatever is what it is. Try for some imps here. Double hand. We're going to a Tyrant cast here. We got 10 imps. Cool. Good enough. That audio cue is from our Tyrant spawning the Greater Dog in. Let's see, we have not been flagged for PvP yet, so we're sitting at full damage amp here on dog still, which is very sick. You can see the damage here solid. We're sitting at 1.65, 1.66. Destro, a proc again right there, 1.7. Destro on the higher end, I've seen, and we have notes here I can go over in a minute as well, was sitting at about 1.65, playing a mix of Hellcaller, Rain of Fire build, and Shadowburn Chaos Bolt build. In the end, once again, RNG is RNG. We've had, I think, 4 jackpot procs here over the course of this test, and that's sort of like the story for every lock spec, probably most specs in WoW this tier, is hey, if you roll a jackpot, you're gonna get, you know, some extra value. RNG is RNG, the theme of 11.1. If you don't roll it, hey, well, you know, it is what it is, but that's sort of that. So we have a big Tyrant setup coming here, so we're gonna Grimoire, we're gonna cast this. I might lose Calling proc here. We're actually okay. We're gonna cast Purple Dog into dogs, some hands for some shards here, some imps. Grenation proc is nice. We can just go hand. We have 12. We got an imp other proc. We got 14 imps here. This is a big juice Tyrant. And we're sitting at 1.56, which is honestly, like, we have 2 dog procs going on here too. So a bit of a high roll for damage here, but hey, oh, there's some RNG in that. And you can see, I mean, Demo's damage output is solid. Like, it's just good. We didn't get flagged for PvP here on my 20th re-recording of this segment. The damage output's strong. Right? I mean, we can stop damage here and see Greater Dreadstalker, 11.5%. Now we had a lot of procs here. What is unknown? This is my pet, my dude, my regular Felguard. I don't know why. I've seen around 10, 9.5 to 10, 10.5 for Greater Dreadstalker in most tests here. This is a little high. We had a lot of procs here, but it's not just this. Keep in mind, like, your 4-piece also increases the Dreadbite damage of your Dreadstalkers themselves. And I believe it. Yeah, it actually separates damage here from the tier set and from your regular Dreadbites. Now, the Dreadbites themselves do hit for less than max. They hit for 50%, but, you know, the damage is increased by the number of shards spent. So you can see which one here hits for a little less. Average 405 versus average 515. Average overall 304 versus 365. From what I can see here, I believe this is the tier set. Like the Dreadbite from hand, the 4-piece procking for regular dogs here. And here is the Greater Dreadstalker, which you can see has Dreadbite damage in here, all that kind of stuff. You're looking at like a 16-ish% value from your tier set here for Demonology, which is pretty strong. And based on how Dreadbite is often more AoE-esque kind of ability, the damage in single target here is impressive. Demonology looks to be our highest spec overall in single target, but it's important to keep in mind there's not a lot of single target this raid tier. You're looking at things like Sprocketmonger being the only real patchwork fight. Now, if there's stat cleave fights, there's potential for stat cleave on Styx and Vexy and Reverb and all that. Demo can be good there too, but on these fights, there's also guarantees for Red Cleave, which Hellcaller, Wither, all that destruction, even Aff at times, is much better at than Demonology. Now, I have a summary of what I had damage-wise last night from testing and things here. Basically reflects what we saw here. Destro with Hellcaller, testing all that. This is Demonic Inspiration, I believe, whatever it's called. The passive CDF talent. Here's Shadowburn. Here's Rain of Fire. Shadowburn was sitting at about 1.6, 1.65, give or take. 1.5 to 1.6 for Rain of Fire build. All very similar. Even Diabolist, very similar here for Destro. All within relative margin of error, right? Aff, Soul Harvester, about what we saw here. 1.4, 1.37 needs some big buffs in single target. Demonology, 1.65, 1.68, about what we saw here as well, right? RNG is RNG. If you high roll things, even better. If you low roll for any of these or high roll, they'll be inflated or deflated. But I think you can say overall for like just pure single target rankings right now, heading into this raid tier, Demonology is on top, followed by Destro, and then Aff is down here 3 floors below me in the complex, right? But once again, Sims and actual like single target damage is relevant, but damage profiles matter a lot. And in this upcoming raid tier, I think Hellcaller is the best spec. Even though it's a hero talent, it is the best spec. Whether it's Destro or Aff amplifying it more, probably gonna be Destro, we'll see. But don't sleep on Demonology. Some fights you might get some stat cleave, and in single target, looks to be strong. So thanks for watching, guys. It wraps it up. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and hopefully it gave you all finally a better look at where Warlock is at single target wise in 11.1 heading into Liberation of Undermine and S2 of Mythic Plus. If you guys like the video or want to see any more videos like that on the channel, be sure to smash the like and sub buttons below. It helps out a ton. If you want any week wars or things you saw in the video, links to Twitch and Discord all up below as well as up here. And like always, I want to give one huge thank you to all my patrons for all support on Patreon. Like always, thank you all, guys. Thank you all so much. I greatly appreciate it. If you look at supporting on Patreon, should be a link down below as well as up here. And the 11.1 Warlock PTR spreadsheet is indeed on Patreon if you want early access to that for the tier 3 failure guard rank or higher, but it will indeed be public and open for free and also obviously before the patch goes live, probably in about a week or so here, give or take. We're getting close. I mean, the patch is less than 10 days away at this point, filming this video, and I'm excited. I think there's going to be more tuning coming this week to other classes and probably to Warlock, maybe to fix Rain of Fire stuff for Destro, maybe this Aff getting something, we'll see. And Demo, I don't know. But either way, I'm excited for it. Thanks for watching, y'all, and I'll catch y'all again soon on stream. Peace.